Hi, my name is Sharon Abreu, and I am a supporter and artist with SingPeace. And it's my great pleasure today to introduce Pushkara Sally Ashford, who is the composer of the song we just heard in the video, You Look Up. Now, Pushkara and I know each other through SingPeace. We met, I guess, back in 2003 through progressive politics and the peace movement, and we've had a wonderful association all these years. I'm very honored to be interviewing her today. So Pushkara, tell us, what was the inspiration for this song?
You Look Up. So years ago, I heard a woman from the Deep South whose grandmother was a slave, who commonly said, God knock you on your back so you look up. And that phrase stuck with me. I really didn't want to write that song. I didn't want to write the God knock you on your back. But the fact is that I was at a really low point, and it fit for that stage in my life. So I wrote it not as, a downer, but to remind myself that every moment you can recreate yourself, especially if you stay close to nature, to what's real in your world.
Well, I'd like to continue by introducing everyone else you see here on the screen, and we're going to come back to Pushkara in just a moment. I'd like to introduce Pushkara's son, David Sapphire, who was the recording engineer and producer of the song, and he's also the lead singer and guitarist on the song. So David, give us a little bit of background about this song we just heard.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Well, so the song was born, and I don't think any of us knew really what to do with it, but I knew I liked it. And I remember driving down from the Catskills in the back of a pickup truck with a few musicians stuffed there, on some sleeping bags as the car bounced down the road, and happened to be sitting next to someone who's actually become a somewhat prominent jazz singer now, Kate McGarry. And we were talking about recording. She needed some recording and I needed some help to sing a demo of You Look Up, because Pushkara had no way of singing this song. So we needed to get it into a recording. And so I facilitated that, and we recorded it to a 4-track cassette. And it was very sweet, and it just sat like that for a long time. But then towards a special commemorative birthday, Pushkara asked if we could do maybe a more formalized type of recording. And I remember going through a process of finding musicians. I certainly picked, I would say a dream team of great musicians from the New York area. There's really no shortage of absolutely amazing musicians. So we got Lisa Gutkin of the Klezmatics to play fiddle. We got Abby Gardner of Red Molly and other projects, who is a brilliant singer and dobro player. We got Wayne Fugate, who is an incredible classical jazz and bluegrass mandolin player. And we got a friend of both of ours, Peter Hayes, who lives up in the Catskills or Hudson Valley, to play harmonica, and he's quite an amazing musician. So all of these people contributed their talents, their love, their enthusiasm to make this recording, and I think it just came out in the most happy, beautiful way. It took a long time to really get it finally mixed and crystallized, and that just happened within the last few months because it just sat for a long time. And now it seems to be just sprouting, and now we've made this video. video, and it's just taken on a life of its own.
You know, for me, there's almost nothing more fun than rediscovering a song from years back and relearning it. You always relearn it on a deeper level, and then more of the potential of it comes out, and you've really brought out so much in this recording. And the video is just wonderful. I'm going to go on and introduce Melissa Koch. Melissa is a friend of Pushkara, and they met. They both live on Whidbey Island. And Melissa is an artist, an activist, and this is a very happy collaboration between Pushkara and Melissa. So Melissa, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the project?
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, Pushkara and I have known each other for a while, and I got a message from her by surprise, totally. In fact, I think it sat in my inbox for a week before I actually noticed it was there. Introducing her project and asking me if I would be interested. And I was really surprised because I'm a visual artist, and it was a project that involved making a music video. And well, an album cover. I'm used to doing things like that. I have always been interested in working on projects that have deep meaning to them. I love storytelling. And so I thought this would be a really wonderful challenge and creative experience, and have been working with my daughter, Alice Springs, since she was about 4 years old. She's accompanied me around the world on a lot of different projects, collaborating. And she also is a musician as well as a visual artist and has done a lot of performance work. So I thought that this would be a really perfect family match with another family. And Alice is in Mexico. She'll tell you more about that with her partner. So this really turned into or evolved into a family affair of 3 families working collaboratively together, which I really love. I think this is the new way forward for humanity on planet Earth.
Yeah, collaboration is such a wonderful thing, and it's something I really personally want to encourage a lot more of. We have Pushkara and David, mother and son. We have Melissa and Alice, mother and daughter. And Alice worked on this video with her partner, Enzo Pollux. And Enzo's whole family got involved. So Alice and Enzo, why don't you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yes. Well, we were very excited when we received in our own turn our email from Melissa and a call saying that her wonderful friend had written this song with her son, and the whole theme of the song came alive. We are in a very specific area of Mexico, which is Vera Cruz. Sorry, I've got a little bit of background noise. Vera Cruz, and we're in the city of Jalapa, and this is in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a portuary area. It's got a huge port in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's actually where the Spanish first arrived on the continent here in the country of Mexico. So it's got a very interesting history. And knowing that Pushkara's song had that root, we found it very befitting right away to incorporate more of a traditional sort of feel to this story, but to keep it very contemporary within the theme of peace and unity, and of course the musicality of it, and the fun of incorporating Melissa's artworks, which of course I'm very familiar with. So it was very befitting, this flow. And then lastly, ironically, we had talked in our first Zoom meetings and encounters with the Ashfords and Melissa, was the need to create this story that talks about Mother Earth. And Jalapa is actually, so we are in the city of Jalapa, which is the capital of the Vera Cruz state. And here we have a huge hub of cinema, dance, and folklore. So we wanted to incorporate that, and that's where Enzo's family right away came in, because Enzo's father worked in radio, has a lot of friends in cinema. There's a great cinema university here. So people are really into that medium, the video medium. So it really kind of all came together really beautifully and organically, I have to say. So yeah. I don't know if you want to say anything, darling.
Sí, excuse me for my English, but voy a hablar en español. Bueno, yo me dedico a la fotografía, es mi hobby, y cuando llega la oportunidad de hacer un video desde Melissa en Pushkara en David, con Alice se nos ocurre que, siendo el título You Look Up, se trata también de poner atención a las cosas que ahí están arriba o por ahí, y se nos ocurre que aquí, en donde estamos, hay mucha cultura y mucho folklore también. Entonces, se nos ocurre incorporar y no ignorar que aquí están ocurriendo tantos símbolos de libertad, de lucha, al mismo tiempo de manera tan bonita y tan cercana emocionalmente con lo que está ocurriendo en todo el mundo. Es, creo que también un mensaje, una oportunidad para dar un mensaje de unidad también. Y muchas gracias por poder participar en esto. Es lo que hace falta hoy en día, es la unidad.
Muchas gracias, igualmente.
I can quickly translate, but basically what Enzo is sharing with us is how this process came about. He's a young photographer. He's been researching kind of how to, I mean, I know his work, and it's always an observation from a very specific point of view, a very humble, beautiful observation of nature and society around us. So he's talking about how this lucha, which is, you know, when one has to fight for their lives and one has to, you know, fight to the end. And I don't like the word fight, so if anybody has another word for that, but luchar is really when you bring your all.
Tu obra.
Yeah, and so this kind of your work, and it brings us together in this unity. And so this culture, and so mentioned the You Look Up theme, that makes us want to look up and look around us, which is just what Pushkara said to us. That was really important for her, and that's something that's really important in all of our day-to-day lives, to be observant and be respectful and honor that. So I hope I translated correctly, but that's pretty much what I understood. Yeah.
It's really about standing up and taking a good step out of your comfort zone and persisting and persevering and really collaborating.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, how about the launch? How is this video going to be launched? Where, when, on what types of platforms? Pushkara, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. ASAP. We've been working for 3 months to launch on peaceweekend.org/up. Up standing for unity and peace, ramping up to Peace Weekend. So there's a website, and if you go to the website, then you can locate the 2 events that we're going to be actually premiering the video and sharing more of this making of and the larger story, because subsequent to writing this song, I had a singing dream. And it was interesting because I'd already lost my singing voice, but the singing dream told me, or suggested to me, that I was going on a singing pilgrimage, a pilgrimage for peace and global harmony. And it wouldn't be alone. It would be with a crowd of singers and dancers and puppeteers and storytellers. Oh, you mean I didn't have to be alone, and it didn't have to be that old idea of struggle, that we could remind people of what community is and what the basis of our very existence is this love that we will be reminded of in nature and as we play together, in exuberant play together. So I built a gypsy wagon, a caravan, and it has become the symbol of this pilgrimage. So that's a piece of it.
Wow. It's been a wonderful journey
It has.
for you and for everybody who you've touched with the song and the peace pilgrimage.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if this would be a good time to bring in the challenge that's being proposed. Do we have time for that right now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Alice, why don't you speak to the challenge now that we have the song in English and in Spanish?
Yes.
What's coming down the pike or going up the pike next?
Yes. Well, we would love to invite anybody who would be interested in doing their own version of the song, of the ending of the song like we did, of a fraction of the song that spoke to them, the whole entire thing in their, you know, their native language or their instrumental, you know, arrangements that they would be inspired to do. And we've sort of come up with this this idea to be able to share to one another and create that community nowadays online. I guess the quickest way to connect all together is through the hashtag. So we came up with the hashtag for the You Look Up with an exclamation point at the end, challenge. To find it online, we'll start posting our version, you know, the video and the launch so that people can find us and Pushkara and David. And through that, create this community through creativeness and music and joy, love, harmony, all these wonderful things that have been the key, the center to this project and these collaborations that we've really enjoyed. So we invite others to get in, get messy, and have fun and come together and look up.
Well, just having heard a little bit of the Spanish version, I'm excited to hear more of the Spanish version. I'm excited to hear many more languages, people singing this song in many languages, many cultures and countries all over the world.
Thank you.
I'm really glad I'm glad that you created that scene at the end of the video of your familia.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did. I think it really came, again, organically. I mean, if we were to analyze again how folklore and, you know, your gypsy wagon, I was reading up a little bit on the history of this specific style that we represented in a folk way, because again, we're just interpreting things. We're all interprets. So it's not about cultural appropriation or about trying to tell the story a certain way to keep it closed. The idea is to really open up and not claim anything. It's an expression out of all respect and you know, love, that as much as we can bring out and inspire others to do the same and enjoy themselves too, like you talked about. It doesn't all have to be a struggle, and I think that's really beautifully put. For me, that really resonates, because I think for a long time, it's starting to rain here, so you might hear raindrops, storms, but yeah, it's a beautiful process. And again, we thank you all for allowing us to be creative through your creativity.
I'd love to add something in here as well. I think we have a few minutes left. That the other thing I'm really loving is that we also brought images of our other brothers and sisters, ants, birds, natural habitats, because this is another thing humanity's learning, is that we need to take care of Mother Earth and not turn our backs on our other brothers and sisters. And part of our healing process is also learning to be fully in love again with life and to become good custodians of this beautiful, beautiful planet that we inhabit and share with many, many species with whom we are interdependent and connected. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
grateful
you.
that Alice and Enzo's team got so many shots of little creatures. They really bring the video to life. They're very important to the whole video.
Again, being here, I know on Woodby, there are a lot of creatures and beautiful animals, and we're so fortunate, all of us, to be living in these places. I know you're in New York, and I love New York, but I have to say I prefer being out in nature. And it's just a blessing when you're around all those creatures and you know, natural habitat. It just feels such a blessing to be observing it. So for us, it was very accessible, very easy to find all these incredible creatures that we included in the videos.
You know, if we have just a second, do we? We're in the middle of a pandemic, and during this time, we're left to our own devices. But the song suggests how you can use this time. You can look in the mirror. You can see when you're inflating your sense of importance or deflating the balloon of your divine self. And the verses that trace the arc of a day in nature are the landing place for each one of us as the place of peace, the peace that exists within, and which we will note in nature. And I'm hoping that this pandemic teaches us not to wrangle with nature, to really increase our understanding and respect of this relationship that's so ever present and really the basis of life itself.
If we have a minute, and you can cut this off if there isn't time, but I actually, it's very interesting. I anticipated the You Look Up challenge many years ago also. So I ended up really liking the song. So I did a song in sort of my own style, which is more like a contemporary folk rock version. And I had trouble with the chorus myself because, you know, I'd had this discussion with Pushkara, you know, so there was never an intention of creating, you know, God, a punitive God knocking you down because you're doing something wrong. And I said, you know, God is really expressed in life energy. God is the energy of life. You can call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it God, but there's this powerful energy that flows and brings everything to life, and its motion and its change and its existence. And so I said, well, how about if I sing, and I checked with her about, does it seem right if I just say, well, if life knocks you on your back? And we had an agreement about that. Yeah. So in my version, you know, I kind of changed that. So in a way, I translated it into my own language. But it was, you know, I think there's some very deep messages there.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that, David, and I know we're maybe running out of time, but I just wanted to say that it was such a process for us as well in the creative process of how to bring alive this story so that it's relatable, so that it's of the now, but it's also talking about the past, because we are all results of our ancestors, aren't we? We're all this sort of like passing down and result of you know, generations, and being here in Mexico again, it really broadens my perspective on what's going on now in the world, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the destruction of Mother Earth, whether it's the suppression of many people with an elite that live a certain way and sort of feed off of everybody else. In that process, when we talk about God, there is this connotation of, you know, the West and the power in the world that's taking over and has been for so long, and this sort of going back into the source. And there is this rebellion that happens, and we talked a lot about, you know, activism and art. You know, my mother is a big artist activist. Pushkara is an artist activist. So is David. So are we. But in a compassionate way, of course. And we vie for peace and harmony. So we find creative ways of expressing that. And for this specific story that we told here in Mexico, it's really a reflection of that, letting go of all the colonial aspects, which we respect and we honor because they're absolutely stunning and beautiful. And it was part of that. Our favorite scenes of the video were also, for all of us, I think unanimously, moments where it's a full headdress. But the idea that she's shedding and getting rid of excess, like in the song, in the lyrics, the actual lyrics, we really tried to tell that story where she goes back to the source, back to nature, back to herself, and back to ourselves and this connection we have. So I think that whole God subject really was present in our conversations with Enzo, because we talked about God, we talked about Mother Earth, and we talked about ourselves and how we picture this new era basically coming. So yeah.
It's definitely a time of transformation. And one other thing I want to mention that Alice sparked in my memory is the beauty of crossing borders as well at this time, that we brought together many traditions and different diverse cultures in the making of this, and also different generations of artists coming together to make this within the family of humankind, which is really powerful as well, because as we all know, we are one family, and we've created these artificial borders and boundaries that are very destructive and hurting humans and hurting life, hurting other species. So the wonderful thing is when art can be a vehicle for transformation and change. And I love that it can inspire these new ways for us to now pursue.
Sharon, you can see I picked the right people, or they were picked for me. The element of grace to me is pretty profound. So you've heard all of us now. What do you think, Sharon? Where are you thinking this?
What am I thinking?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how Up is such a perfect message for our time. I love the celebration in the video. I love the dance and the beauty of the dance and the spirit. It's so uplifting. But when you are falling on your back, or you're falling on the ground on your face, whatever has knocked you down, there is only one way to go, and that's up. And that's infinite potential.
Yeah.
And there will be somebody to help you.
It's great to find companions on the pilgrimage of life.
Well, I'm so glad that it came through. Sorry, I love what you just said, Sharon. I think it's so uplifting for us when Pushkara showed us her beautiful peace wagon. We were so inspired, and there's actually a stained glass window with a dancer in a beautiful dress, and ironically, it just matched, didn't it? Because we started brainstorming, and this female figure came to us, and her red scarf, and all these, like Enzo was mentioning, symbols, very symbolic parts came together, and And again, this whole journey that you've been on, Pushkara, and that you've brought to your son and to all of us, just been really this opportunity to tell these stories. And like you mentioned, grace, and I think that's also being in beauty and in grace. You know, it doesn't have to do with money, it doesn't have to do with power, it doesn't have to do with all these sort of superficial aspects that dominate our world. And when we get back to that, and I just am ecstatic that we were able to do this all together and bring that message. And we co-created from beginning to end, lots of back and forth, lots of incredible moments, and different teams, different cultures, like we mentioned, different generations, and inclusion. It was a very inclusive project, I'd have to say. And I think that the SingPeace project is really that, isn't it? So it was incredible to live what you had started over here on the other side of the US border. And that shows the transcending of these types of projects, that they really do make a difference. They really do bring change. And we are the first ones to have lived that, like directly, at a distance. So it really does go across the screen, out into our ears, through our bodies, you know, into our souls. And we were able to sing our own song over here. And so it echoes. And I think that's a really incredible phenomenon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alice. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pushkara, for bringing this song into the world. Thank you, David, for the beautiful recording and production. Thank you, Melissa, for the beautiful artistic vision you brought to it, and to Alice and to Enzo for making this video just so sublime and appropriate and perfect for this time we're living in right now. Our time is up, and we will have another interview which will be more extensive. Thank you so much.